The guys and I used to go out in the woods a lot in the summer, sort of like orienteering, through the abandoned villages in the area. Not that we were looking for something good, but for the sake of interest we went out into the wilderness for a few days. We spent nights in abandoned houses, but that's not what I'll tell you about today. About something else. So, on our next walk we were walking from one village to another for a long time. The road was forested. Since the morning marched, and the forest did not end, although on the map should already be a village. My people groaned, saying, "It's time to have a rest and build a fire." But I felt that it was necessary to get out of these places as soon as possible. But what was this feeling and whence? I will not say, I do not know. Everything seemed to be fine around. The weather was clear, and the path under my feet was hiked, but something was wrong, no matter how you like it. "Let's go, guys, away from here," I said. "Let's go away. The forest will end, though we will sit in a field for lunch." But the forest was not going to end so quickly. It was already past noon, the sun was drawing down, and we were quite tired. It was hot and we were thirsty. The water in the canteen was hot and more disgusting than thirsty. The heat continued though the day was getting late. A small lake glimmered to the left of the road. We cheered up and decided to turn off the path and camp by the water. However, Mania, understanding the general mood, persuaded everyone not to go off the road, especially now in the evening at sunset. As she confessed later on, she felt some uneasy feeling in her stomach. She felt something bad. What's the big deal? Venya was perplexed. "Let's go there, get some clean water, take a bath. Be patient, we'll get to the village, we'll rest there. Not long left," Mania persuaded him. However, she could not hold her companions back for long. Everybody soon left the path towards the forest lake. "And what were you afraid of?" laughed Venya, walking on the moss between the trees. "There, look, the women are taking berries." And indeed, there, where our friend was pointing, a few women in white slowly moved from place to place. Mania trembled. I also somehow worried. I do not know why, but a chill ran down my spine. Maybe I should give it up. "Let's go away from here." "Oh, you. We'll find out from the local where the nearest habitation is." Venya pointed forward. We had already reached the water. An old woman was sitting on the pavement, rinsing somebody's embroidered shirt in the lake. "Wait, Venya," Alia grabbed his hand. "Isn't it strange that women pick berries at sunset? Everybody goes in the morning. Didn't you know? And by evening a normal man will not turn off the path, even if the field is closer and you can cut it." "How silly you girls are," laughed Veniamin. "Hey, auntie, can you wash my shirt?" The old woman looked back at Benjamin, and only then did everyone notice that the shirt she washed was not embroidered with patterns, but stained with blood, and the more the old woman wrung and rinsed it, the blacker the stains became. "Well, I'll wash it," grinned the grandmother. The smile disappeared from Venny's face. The forest was filled with an eerie howl. Young and old women, fat and thin, tall and short, but equally disheveled and mussed up long hair, wrapped in white blood-stained shrouds, the same women we mistook for village chicks picking blueberry, came charging at us from all sides. "Where is your shirt?" Alia asked our comrade excitedly. Veniamin looked around himself and only now noticed that he was standing naked. The old woman by the lake was smiling evilly, wriggling her hands in the water. After a moment she retrieved something from there. "There it is. There's my shirt." Venya was pointing in the direction of the old woman. The sun dropped below the horizon, and the forest grew dark. We rushed as fast as we could to the road. As soon as we managed to keep together, and not each ran away in his own direction, I do not know. Well, not the first year we wander together through the fields and fields. Apparently, many years of practice have made themselves felt. Well, we stopped only when we realized that we were standing on the path. We were standing, looking at each other, trying to catch our breath. Everybody was looking at our company. I did not know about the others. I was mechanically counting us. There were 4 of us. Me, Venya, Alia, and Manya. No matter how I counted, 5 of us came out all the time. I start counting by name. Me, 1, Manya, 2, Alia, 3, Venya, 4, Manya, 5. Stop. How come? 2 manias. I 1, Mania, 2, Alia, 3, Venya, 4. And then I saw an old face from the river. With us stood the same grandmother. That's why there were 5 of us. I shook my head to shake off the illusion. After all, it was dark. In the darkness it seemed that all kinds of things. I counted again. 1, Manya, 2, Alia, 3, Venya, 4, Venya, 5. And then Venya in a low whisper said, "Guys, we are not alone here." The silence of the night was broken by a cry of terror. Venya was 5 minutes away from Veniamin. "Do not look at the old woman. Be silent," Alia whispered. We all looked closely. Instead of another Veniamin, we saw the same old woman in white, which was grinning in the darkness, toothless mouth. We don't know why, but at Alia's command we all tried to turn away from the ghost. For a while the old disheveled woman walked around us, crouched down, tried to look us in the eyes, sang a strange old lullaby, as if she wanted to lull us to sleep. We endured. No one looked into the black bottomless eye sockets. Then the ghost melted away. We slowly, like thieves, moved forward along the road, trying not to make noise, almost on tiptoe, trembling with cold and fear. We came to ourselves already in the village. We stopped at a grandmother's, a local resident. Over tea, over a conversation, we laid out to her the night's adventure. Here is what she said: "You're such fools. If you go around saying hello to everybody, you won't last long. And that woman, she just keeps an eye on the living. And whoever dies soon, she cries and howls and cleans the shroud. Your boy gave her his shirt. He gave it to her to wash. And whatever you give her will be her shroud. And even worse, if she was in a good mood, then she could follow such a handsome man and give him things like dead people are buried with. Oh, you." The sun was slowly sinking lower and lower. Its rays illuminated only the slopes of the hills, forming bizarre bright spots on them. The taiga was preparing for the night life. Gradually, the sounds of the day faded away. Animals and birds, leading an active life during the day, were preparing for a rest. The night dwellers, on the contrary, woke up and asked the day dwellers what interesting things happened during the day. We, having finished our route, headed for camp. Night was rapidly gaining its rights. The last rays of sunlight had already disappeared and a velvet veil of darkness enveloped the dusk. The moon had risen in the sky and stars were scattered. It illuminated everything around with its mysterious light, bringing magic and changing the surrounding nature. On a night like that, it felt like you were in a fairy tale. The worker walked ahead and I followed him. After walking about 500 meters, it seemed to me from the side eye someone was walking in parallel, a meter away, now and then hiding behind bushes and trees. Without stopping, I turned my head in that direction to be sure, and immediately stumbled and fell over. The hunter stopped and turned around. Trying to get up, she felt a pain in her leg. I involuntarily groaned, took off my backpack and equipment and began to feel the sore spot. I was relieved that there was no open fracture. The worker came up to me. He found a suitable stick for me to lean on while walking. He took my backpack and the equipment from me and helped me to get up. He walked loaded, 2 backpacks, the gear, a rifle and an axe. I waddled lightly behind, leaning on a makeshift crutch. The dog ran ahead, occasionally running toward us. The pain increased with each step. After walking 300 meters, she stopped and sat down on the ground. Pulling up my pant leg, I asked him to shine a light on my leg. My leg was swollen where it hurt a lot. Hunter pulled iodine and bandage from his backpack. Applying the netting, she bandaged it up. "Can you walk?" he asked. "Where am I going to go?" "You're as loaded as a donkey as it is. Just let's move even slower," I replied. With great difficulty, clenching my teeth so as not to moan, with his help and leaning on a stick, I got up and we walked, he in front, looking back at me every now and then. At first it was bearable, but the longer we walked, the pain became unbearable with each step. I walked with clenched teeth. My forehead was evidently covered in sweat from the pain. I was just about to say that I needed to take a break when I felt someone supporting me, lifting me slightly off the ground, so that I did not put all my weight on my painful leg. It was a strange sensation. I did not feel as if someone was supporting me. When I looked to my left, I saw someone beside me. Surprisingly, our dog reacted calmly to him. At this time, we had just stepped out into an open patch of moonlight. It was a translucent entity, human-like in outline, taller than me by about a head or a little more. It had an almost overgrown face with a beard and bushy eyebrows. His eyes glowed a greenish blue from beneath them. He was dressed in a large pair of pants, like trousers, and either a kaftan or a loose-cut, long-sleeved robe. He held me by the waist with both hands, but I didn't feel his touch as if it were human hands. It just made it easier for me to walk, not as painful. There was no aggression or anger coming from him. When I looked up at his face, he smiled and nodded. "Thank you," I whispered. At that moment, the hunter stopped and turned around to make sure once again that I was following him. His eyes widened for a fraction of a second, but then returned to normal, and he turned away and continued walking. At last we approached the camp, where a fire was burning and around which sat our men, who had also returned from the trails. Before I reached a bit, I felt a gentle release, meaning that I was firmly planted with my feet on the ground. The pain in my leg increased sharply. Turning my head, I saw that the creature was a meter away from me. "Thank you very much," I said with difficulty, unclenching my teeth. The hunter stopped and turned to us, bowing low to him, said, "Thank you, Taiga Master, for your help." The entity, smiling at us, retreated behind the trees and seemed to vanish as if it had never existed. As we approached the fire, we joined those who were sitting there. After we ate, over a mug of tea, we talked about what had happened, about the unexpected help. If not for the master of Taiga, who helped me to go, most likely, the hunter would have had to leave me alone and go to get help. One day a friend came to me and called me to her place. It was urgent. Everyone was waiting. I was surprised, of course, but I went with her. We went to her house. Her sister and another girl from our group were waiting for us. She was told that somebody was shouting in the forest, and at the same time, at midnight. I did not believe it. Maybe somebody is joking with you. No, they said they had checked a radius of 20 meters around every bush. We had a large group, 15 people. I was not with them for a few days. I had a leg injury and I did not leave the house. They were talking and their faces were frightened. I could see that they had no time for jokes. I asked, "It gets frightening." This scream spreads quickly through the forest, as if from all sides at once. It's so creepy, it gets to the bones. Cannot stand the horror, run away from there. It's been like this for 3 days straight now. I said, "Okay, I'll go with you today. I wonder who's making fun of them." I don't believe it. So we got our gang together in the evening. Here we are. It's the edge of the woods. There's gardens and houses nearby. As always, we built a fire and sat down at a table, sitting, talking. The time was 11:25 p.m. I remember exactly. I was sitting on the edge, close to the hazel trees. I felt uncomfortable somehow. From time to time I looked up at the hazel tree. Something alarmed me in it. Though recently, maybe 20 minutes ago, everything was all right, and now some excitement. I noticed that the girl, who sits next to me, also squinted there. She kept silent, then stands up the very same friend who called me to her and said, "Quiet, it's going to happen." Strangely enough, everyone was silent. Somewhere in the distance, in the woods, a screeching sound was heard, muffled at first, then louder and louder by the second. It was moving, exactly moving, from everywhere, all over the forest. Everyone jumped up and listened. We stood and listened for no more than 2 minutes. There were female voices, male voices, and a lot of other voices in the shrieking. A primal horror came over me, and I was shaking in a small, disgusting way. It got very cold, to the bone. And just when it seemed that this was about to show itself to us, we ran. Through the weeds, the nettles above our height. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was going to explode. We jumped out onto the road, and I stood like a stone. My friend told me they were bringing me to my senses for about 15 minutes. They shook me and hit me in the face and poured water on me. I will not say exactly why I did not react to them, although I was conscious. I only remember that the screaming was in my head. I looked through my friends and didn't notice the commotion around me. Finally, I woke up, as if a finger had clicked loudly over my ear. It was a hard slap in the face. I stuttered. The first thing I asked was, "What was that?" They told me they didn't know, and that was the sound they could hear. They said they wouldn't take me there again, and that if they knew, they wouldn't call me in, that I scared everyone, and they thought I would stay like this, looking right through them. I stopped stuttering quickly when I calmed down and came to my senses. We never went there again. not even to sit during the day. The continuation and the denouement came 3 months later. The police began to rush around the village. They were looking for a girl who had disappeared in a neighboring neighborhood. Then they went into the woods. A month later they found her, or rather, what was left of her, a foot and a shoe on the ashes. The girl was hitching a ride in a nearby village, wanted to get to the summer camp. For some reason she went there at night. They saw her get into a white car, but they couldn't see the license plate number and brand of the car, as it was nighttime. The stoners took her to the woods and raped her, all 3 of them. They realized they couldn't leave her alive. They decided to burn her alive. Like one of the bastards said, she was unconscious. They wouldn't have been found if one of them hadn't run to the police and confessed. He said he dreamt about her every night and couldn't get any rest. He showed us the place where they killed the poor girl. It turns out we weren't the only ones who heard that scream. People from the neighboring village heard it, too. This forest connects the 2 neighborhoods, ours and the neighboring one. It is not such a big forest. We searched it many times. The police and mushroom hunters walked there, but we didn't find anything. We invited a priest. He blessed the place and no one else heard anything. The poor woman just wanted to be found.